This can't be the Philippines. I'm standing in what looks like Singapore, but the rent here is 70% cheaper. The streets are cleaner than Los Angeles. The sidewalks are wider than Brooklyn. And 10 years ago, this entire district was a military base. I'm in BGC, Bonifacio Global City, and after 3 days of exploring, I'm convinced this place represents either the future of developing nations or the death of Filipino culture. I haven't decided which yet. Maybe you'll help me figure it out. 10 years ago this was Fort Bonifacio, an active military installation. Today it's got better infrastructure than most American cities, and I'm not exaggerating. BGC has a walkability score of 94 out of 100. That beats Manhattan, which sits at 88. Let that sink in. A district in the Philippines is more pedestrian-friendly than New York City. I literally forgot to look over my shoulder when crossing the street, something I always do in Manila proper because traffic there is absolute chaos. Here, cars actually stop for pedestrians. I watched it happen 5 times before I believed it was real. But this paradise has a dark secret that's tearing Filipino society apart. And over the next 10 minutes I'm going to show you both sides of the most controversial urban experiment in Southeast Asia. How does a developing nation build a district that puts LA to shame? I needed answers, so I started with the infrastructure itself. The sidewalks here are minimum 8 feet wide. US federal standard is 5 feet. The green space makes up 30% of BGC's total area. New York City is 14%. Traffic flows at an average of 15 miles per hour. The rest of Manila? 7 miles per hour. According to a 2019 Asian Development Bank report, BGC's urban planning model has become a case study for developing cities across Asia because it did something that shouldn't be possible. It leapfrogged decades of infrastructure development in less than 15 years. I met Carlos on my second day here. He's 67, a retired civil engineer who spent 40 years in Queens, New York designing city infrastructure. He moved to BGC in 2021, and when I asked him why, his answer stopped me cold. I spent 4 decades designing cities, he said. Proposals, revisions, budget cuts, political nightmares. I designed a pedestrian plaza in Queens that took 11 years to approve and still hasn't been built. I visited my daughter here in BGC in 2019. Walked around for 3 days. Saw bike lanes, parks, wide sidewalks, actual urban planning. 6 months later I sold my condo in New York. He paused, looked around at the tree-lined street we were standing on. This is the first place that actually built what I dreamed. Carlos's story hit me because it flips the script we're used to. We expect Americans to retire to cheap tropical countries and complain about the lack of infrastructure. Here's a man who left America because the infrastructure was better in the Philippines. But that's when I started noticing the cracks in the perfect facade. Who actually gets to live here? Average Filipino annual income, $3,500. Average BGC condo price, $250,000. Do that math. That's a 71-to-1 price to income ratio. In America, the average is 4-to-1. According to Philippine Statistics Authority data from 2023, BGC residents earn 12 times the national median income. This isn't a neighborhood, it's an economic fortress. I met Elena at a coffee shop on my 3rd day. She's 34, works as a call center manager at one of the massive BPO offices in BGC. Business process outsourcing, that's the industry holding up the Philippine economy. She lives 2 hours away in Quezon City because she can't afford to live where she works. I serve coffee to expats who pay what I make in a month for a studio apartment I'll never afford, she told me. But she wasn't bitter, exactly. More resigned. She started a side business teaching English online and she's saving for a condo, but it'll take 8 more years at her current rate. 8 years of 4-hour daily commutes just to live in the place where she already spends 50 hours a week. Then I met James. He's 41, American, remote software developer who left Austin, Texas in 2021. His math was different. My $4,000 monthly salary makes me upper class here, he said. In Austin I was barely middle class. Couldn't afford a house, couldn't save, couldn't travel. Here I have a 2-bedroom condo, a cleaner who comes twice a week, I eat out every meal, and I still save $2,000 a month." He paused, and I saw the guilt cross his face. I know I'm part of the problem. But what am I supposed to do? Stay broke in America? And that's the paradox, right? James isn't evil. Elena isn't a victim. They're both just trying to survive in a system that pits them against each other. This economic divide is creating a two-tier society, but it gets weirder. BGC might be the most culturally isolated place in the Philippines, and nobody's talking about it. According to a 2024 demographic study, 40% of BGC residents are foreign nationals. I spent 4 hours walking around and heard more American accents than Filipino ones. English is spoken more than Tagalog in restaurants and shops. Western chains outnumber local businesses 3 to 1. I met Lola Rosa just outside the BGC perimeter. She's 72, a street food vendor who's been selling fish balls in this area for 45 years, since it was still Fort Bonifacio military base. When BGC developed, security started discouraging street vendors. Too messy, they said. Now she operates 1 block outside the boundary and her income dropped 60%. The young Filipinos who work there, she told me, they don't even look at me. They walk past like I'm invisible. That image haunted me. But then I met Miguel, 28-year-old Filipino tech startup founder whose office is in BGC. People romanticize poverty, he said, clearly frustrated. My parents sold fish like Lola Rosa. They wanted me here, not there. They sacrificed everything so I wouldn't have to stand in the heat selling street food for 50 pesos a day. He stopped, looked uncomfortable. But yeah, sometimes I feel like a foreigner in my own country. So, is BGC progress or cultural colonization? Here's where the story takes a turn. Everyone talks about who's excluded from BGC. Let me show you who's actually winning. BGC hosts 30,000 BPO jobs with an average salary 3 times the Philippine minimum wage. I spent an afternoon with the Garcia family. The father is a security guard at a BGC high-rise. Makes $600 a month, double the national average. His daughter works customer service at a JP Morgan office in BGC, makes $1,200 a month. His son is studying IT at a nearby college and already has internship offers in BGC. This family went from poverty to middle class in 1 generation because BGC exists. People say BGC is only for rich people, the father told me. I say BGC made us less poor. And the data backs him up. A World Bank study from 2023 found that BPO hubs like BGC pulled 2.3 million Filipinos out of poverty since 2010. That's not theoretical. That's millions of families with better education, healthcare, and futures. But there's a cost nobody calculated. BGC's success is choking Manila's traffic. The average commuter spends 3 hours daily traveling to and from BGC. Energy consumption in BGC is 6 times per capita compared to the rest of Manila. And then there's the coming crisis nobody wants to admit. BGC is built on a model that can't scale, and when it collapses it'll take the Philippine economy with it. Dr. Maria Santos, an urban planner at the University of the Philippines, published a study in 2024 that should terrify everyone. BGC absorbs 40% of Metro Manila's foreign investment but generates only 3% of jobs. We're creating a gilded cage that benefits thousands while excluding millions. Her projection gets darker. BGC requires constant foreign capital inflow. The Philippine peso has lost 15% of its value against the dollar from 2022 to 2024. If a global recession hits, the expat population could flee overnight, and BGC becomes a ghost town of empty luxury condos. I met David, a 52-year-old Australian who lived in BGC from 2018 to 2023. It was perfect until COVID hit, he said. Half my friends left. Restaurants closed. The bubble popped. I left in 2023 because the vibe changed. BGC only works in good times. The first sign of trouble, it'll be a ghost town. But there's an alternative model emerging. I visited nearby Makati and Ortigas, older business districts with more mixed-income housing. New developments are trying to blend BGC's infrastructure with inclusivity. It's not perfect, but it's something. So what's the verdict? Should BGC exist? After 3 days here talking to Carlos, Elena, James, Lola, Rosa, Miguel, the Garcia family, here's what nobody wants to say out loud. BGC is both a symbol of progress and inequality, and that's not contradictory. Those things coexist. Here are 3 uncomfortable truths. 1. BGC works because it's exclusive. The moment you make it accessible to everyone, it becomes everywhere else. The exclusivity is what maintains the standards. 2. The people who hate BGC the most are often one promotion away from wanting to live there. It's easy to critique from outside. 3. Developing nations can't afford to build ethically perfect cities. They have to build something and hope equity catches up later. I came here ready to be outraged at the inequality, the cultural erasure, the gentrification. But everyone I talked to was both right and wrong simultaneously. And here's the thing, this isn't just happening in Manila. Dubai's Marina District, Mexico City's Santa Fe, Mumbai's B. They're all following the BGC playbook. Build first world bubbles in third world cities. A McKinsey report from 2023 identified this enclave urbanism as the fastest growing development model in the global south. The question that haunts me is this. Is it better to have inequality with opportunity or equality with stagnation? Because those seem to be the only options on the table. On my last day, I sat at a Starbucks on the corner of 5th Avenue and 26th Street in BGC. To my left, an expat couple was planning their weekend trip to Palawan. To my right, a Filipino college student was studying for exams, making one coffee last 4 hours because it's all she could afford. Both were using BGC for what they needed. Both had a right to be there. And both were keenly aware the other existed. I struck up a conversation with a young Filipino professional at the next table. I don't hate BGC, he said. I hate that there's only one BGC. And that's it. That's the answer. The problem isn't that BGC exists. It's that the Philippines only built one. What if they built 10 BGCs? 20? What if this model scaled across the country instead of being concentrated in one district? But that requires investment, planning, and political will that hasn't materialized yet. And it might never materialize. Here's what I need you to weigh in on. If you were a Filipino policymaker, would you build more BGCs knowing it creates inequality, or would you reject the model entirely and stay poor but equal? And for those of you watching from Western countries, be honest. Would you trade your city's accessibility for BGC's cleanliness and order? Because you can't have both. Every city that's tried has failed. Drop your answer below, and if you've been to BGC or lived there, tell me if I got this right. Because I'm genuinely torn on this. Also comment your city. I want to know if this enclave urbanism is happening where you live, because I guarantee it is and you just haven't noticed yet. Next week I'm going deep into Manila's original business district, Makati, the place BGC is trying to replace. And I'm going to find out if the old model was actually better or if we're just nostalgic for poverty we never had to experience. The truth is going to make a lot of people uncomfortable. Because there's a 40-year-old business owner in Makati who told me BGC's success is Makati's slow death, and he's got the receipts to prove it. See you next week.